my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
They're here.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
It's showtime.
Right, welcome everybody to another episode of the VHS Strikes Back. I am one of your hosts, Chris, and my co-host and very good friend is Dave.
Hey there, Chris, and hello to our listeners out there. Welcome to the VHS Strikes Back, the show where we dust off the old video player and go on a nostalgic journey to look at the good and the bad movies of yesteryear. Now, Chris, what we're going to review this week?
Well, Dave, our good friend, Mr. Kent Gustafsson, as I mentioned last week, supports us across both our podcasts, so really appreciate all your support, Kent. He's taken us back to 1972, and this is the hat-trick ball for 3 Burt Reynolds movies in a row, Dave. So this was his breakout movie. It stars, obviously, Mr. Reynolds, the not living legend. Let's just take that back, Dave, because he's not living anymore. Mr. Jon Voight, Ronny Cox, and Ned Beatty. And this one is called Deliverance. So, Dave, have you got any recollection of ever seeing this over the years?
Well, of course, Ned Beatty, I said to me, he's always Otis. We did him a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? With
Stroke
that
Race.
fucking abomination of Stroke Race. Yeah. So, Chris, this time is the first time I've watched the whole movie all the way through. However, of course, when you're discussing it with your mates and stuff, we all, I'm sure, have seen the bit, the squeal piggy bit. And I was thinking back, and I'm like, my mate kind of, he was going on about it when we were just playing outside and stuff. And he was saying, oh, yeah, this guy's twisting his ear and stuff. He's going, squeal piggy, wee! And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then he showed us that bit, and saw quite a few videos actually around this place. It did cross my mind after it. Just as I was recounting back, I was thinking, was I being groomed? I'm sure I wasn't, but it just seems a bit weird, to bring your mate around and just show that bit. But so anyway, and you know what it is, and like the whole Dueling Banjos thing, it's like part of just pop culture, isn't it? But haven't actually watched the whole movie. How about yourself?
Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I think as kids, you hear different things, don't you, about movies that people have watched or like they've heard from, like, say, brothers or what, they stumbled across whatever. And I always remember the squeal like a pig, conversation. And obviously, we did Pulp Fiction. That's got a real bad male rape scene in it. At 1972, this must have been groundbreaking. There can't have been many films that maybe this was the first on screen, certainly one of the first big Hollywood movies, which it became for that scene. So I think, unfortunately, that scene is the first thing you say to me, Deliverance, is, and I've never seen it. And this is the first time I've ever watched this all the way through. I've seen scenes where Burt Reynolds is going down the river, the canoe, and Jon Voight and everything, and the Dueling Banjos, obviously. And then you've got the whole... I've never really seen the whole male rape scene at all. I've never seen that at any point. Even I remember people saying squeal like a pig, twisting your ear and all that stuff, but I've never actually sat there and watched it. So I think it's like an urban myth sort of movie where you're like... And I must admit, and we'll get into it, it's very uncomfortable thinking, just get to that scene and get it out of the way, because it's just what impact, what I'm thinking is, what impact does it have on me watching the movie? You know what I mean? Like, how far into it is it? And all. So I think as a kid watching it, and obviously we were loving Smoking the Bandit and everything, and I think Mean Machines was 74 off the back of this. I love Mean Machine. The Longest Yard. So obviously it was more of that was a bit of a serious Burt Reynolds role as well. There's a bit of comedy in it, but it was a bit more gritty than his, Cannonball Run and all that. So I think I avoided it because I didn't want it ruining the mystique of my love for Burt Reynolds, that like silly fucking cowboy antics that basically ran out of steam in Stroke Race, let's just say. But yeah, I just avoided it. I don't even think I don't think Mum and Dad would have watched it at all, even though my dad liked Burt Reynolds and that. I don't think he's ever seen it. Well, he's not I've had a conversation with him anyway. But yeah, so I was really I was a bit wary, Dave, going into it. I'll be honest with you. I was wary because we've gone Stroker Ace, Boogie Nights, and then we've gone Deliverance. So we've gone full circle, really. This was his breakout movie. And he's not just the only star of it. Obviously, Jon Voight's probably the main star, really, in the movie. But this was his breakout movie that made him into one of them A-list movie stars. So, yeah. So I was looking forward to doing it, but also sort of going, oh, no, what am I going to think about it? Because I know it's reviewed really well.
Yeah, I mean, Burt Reynolds had said, he thought this might kill his career, and actually, the role of Bobby, people really struggled to get people to sign up for it because they just thought, well, that'd be it, that'd be your career over. And Ned Beatty was in theatre at the time, so this was the first sort of film stuff that he did. And actually, I tell you what, I've come out of this. I mean, I was dismissive of him. I thought he played a cartoon character almost in Smoker Ace, but that's kind of what his character was. But, if you think Otis from Superman, so different to Bobby here. And my kind of respect for him as an actor has just gone through the roof. I'm like, fucking hell, because you're watching him and you're like, okay, he is that character, he is Bobby. But you watch Superman and he's kind of this like bumbling, okay, Mr. Luthor, it's completely different.
That was good. Yes, Mr. Luthor. Yeah, I like that.
Just completely different. I'm like, holy shit, this guy is like actually really quite underrated. But yeah, so his was I think one of the harder roles to cast, but everyone else was pretty much unknown. And I think, you're usually good at, pulling out all it could have been this person. I'm sure like Charlton Heston was in the mix and people like that, but the money kind of from the studio dwindled and dwindled down to like, okay, you're going to have to pretty much pick unknowns. And I think it was Jon Voight who was the only person who'd done something of significance before. But Chris, they made this for $2 million US, and it made $46 million at the box office. Now, I've heard it said, actually, when you do all your kind of reading around and watching interviews and stuff, I heard it said this movie could have only been made at that time in the 70s, where studios were a bit more kind of hands-off-ish. They weren't quite as up on censorship generally. So this could have only been made then, but also be this kind of mainstream film, because things like Pulp Fiction, it's I guess for now, for our generation, it's kind of mainstream, but the mainstream tends to be a bit more PG-13 now, doesn't it, rather than an 18 or a hard R.
Yeah, and that's true. Because even Pulp Fiction, Dave, that scene with Marcellus Wallace, it's an awful scene, but the way Tarantino does it with the music and everything else, there's not comedy, but the way it ends with like the revenge bit of Marcellus and all that sort of thing, you sort of like you get that justice in the way Tarantino does it, if that makes sense. I don't know that the fact that in that scene, and we'll get into it, there's no music, it's you know what I mean? Like, obviously it's a different age, it's bloody 23 years before, so it's a different time in cinema and they shoot things differently, technology, completely different. But I think that scene in Pulp Fiction, I'm uncomfortable watching it, but I'm not as uncomfortable watching it as I think when I watch this.
And I'd go as far as to say, I don't think that scene happens in Pulp Fiction unless this happens in Deliverance. I think it's a direct line to it. I think that's exactly what Tarantino's doing there. But Chris, it's been an eye-opener for sure. Should we get into the trailer?
Let's go.
Where are you going, city boy?
We'll find it.
It ain't nothing but the biggest river in the state.
These are the men. Nothing very unusual about them. Suburban guys like you or your neighbor. Nothing very unusual about them until they decided to spend one weekend canoeing down the Contend River. Ed Gentry. He runs an art service. Wife Martha has a boy, Dean. Lewis Medlock has real estate interests. Talks about resettling in New Zealand or Uruguay. Drew Ballinger. He's sales supervisor for a soft drink company. Bobby Tripp, bachelor, insurance and mutual funds.
Where you going? All right, I'm looking.
These are the men who decided not to play golf that weekend. Instead, they sought the river.
Would you like to check it out?
He could be out there anywhere, watching us right now. We ain't gonna be so hard to follow, dragging a corpse.
Lewis, I'm gonna pull off to the side. There's something wrong. No, go on!
What is it?
Oh, stop, man! Don't hit onto the plan! No, no! Drill! Drill! No, please, man!
John Boorman's film of James Dickey's explosive best-selling novel.
Four Atlanta businessmen, Lewis, Ed, Bobby, and Drew, decide to canoe down a river down the remote northern Georgia wilderness before it is dammed. Lewis, an avid outdoorsman, is the leader. Ed has been on several trips but lacks Lewis's ego, while Bobby and Drew are novices. En route to their launch site, the men, in particular Bobby, are rude towards the locals, who are hostile to the city boys. At a local gas station, Drew, with his guitar, engages with a young banjo-playing boy in a musical duel. The duel is mutually enjoyable, and some of the locals break into dance at the sound of it. However, the boy does not acknowledge Drew when prompted for a friendly handshake. Now, Chris, what do you reckon to the opening of this movie?
Well, I wasn't expecting Dueling Banjos to be literally in the first scene, Dave, or like the second scene, sorry, but it is. I was very surprised. I've read up loads of trivia, and I'm sure you have, and maybe people listen have that. He doesn't actually play the banjo, does he, the guy? The actual, when they're showing...
Someone else's arm, innit?
Yeah, it's someone else's arm, and apparently they were saying, like, if you were a banjo player, it'd drive you mad because his fingers aren't in the right place for that sound and all that sort of thing. But it's a really, really good scene. And knowing that I dropped an almighty bollock, not realising that Captain Bogomil is fucking Drew, you know, fucking Ronny Cox. Fucking what an idiot I was, Dave. It was his first ever movie as well. So great play. And the guitar work in that is brilliant. And they're playing off each other. It's like a bit of what's it, like an open mic sort of thing, I suppose. They're just riffing off each other. It's very, very clever. I did read that the guy who's on the banjo loved Ronny Cox, and they asked him to be a bit of an arse, but he hated Ned Beatty, so that's why he got Ned Beatty there across. He said you can't see him, but that's why he got pissed off and turned his back and everything to get the look that he wanted. But this whole movie, you read about that James Dickey who wrote like the book. He was an absolute wanker, wasn't he? He come on set. He knocked 4 teeth out, the director, John Boorman. Fucking, they had a brawl. Then they became good friends. He was a dick on set. I think Burt Reynolds wanted to fucking lever him at one point. Like, really, really interesting. And I think he plays one of the sheriffs later on.
He's the sheriff,
but he's supposed to be right knobhead. But yeah, I think it starts really well. I think like it's of its time. It's got that like gritty haze about it that was filmed with these sort of movies in the early 70s. Obviously, Burt Reynolds, he's not at the point where he's wearing his Irish jig. He's clinging on for that hair day for thingy. But it's interesting because Burt Reynolds is Burt Reynolds, and this movie he got endorsed by Jimmy Carter, who wasn't the president then, but to get it filmed in Georgia, and it helped the Georgia film industry grow just by him doing this with Jimmy Carter. But Burt Reynolds is trying to put on that extra southern accent in here at the start when they're doing that like monologue talking over the camera. It's just fucking Burt Reynolds. I just want him to start laughing, doing the old Burt Reynolds laugh at this point, but he's
Wink
not.
at the camera.
Yeah, wink at the camera. You know, there's only fine ladies out there, whatever. But I think it starts very well. I do think that the one who stands out more than anything is Jon Voight in this. Like, really, his character. There's things wrong with it I want to talk about as well, but I think like he holds it all together, and you could almost say they say it's a thriller horror, but you could almost say it is almost like a horror movie, isn't it, in some respects? You know, like that sort of someone goes to a well, yeah. Okay. There's going to be them jokes all the way through, but but you know what I mean? Like where you get a family who stumble across something, and the next minute the fucking town is just full of like zombies. I think that's what's pretty underrated about this movie. It is pretty much a horror movie in some respects, isn't it? Without like that silliness that comes with some of the horror movies.
Yeah, I mean, technically it gets written up as a thriller, but yeah, it is like I don't know, it is borderline horror movie. I agree. I think, you know, we've done a few 70s movies now, haven't we? And they always have that familiar kind of pacing that jars a little bit at first, because you're just not as used to it, because we've not watched as many kind of 70s movies as we have like 80s and 90s and you know, synth and onwards kind of thing. But what I thought was interesting was at the start, you know, you get this dialogue and it's almost, you don't see anyone. They're just chatting in the car about, you know, how the wilderness is being chewed up by, you know, man essentially destroying the landscape and stuff. And I thought, wow, it's almost, it's not quite exposition. You know, it is a little bit of a commentary about what's happening, but it almost gave me that Tarantino feel. You know, where they're just chatting away in the car about stuff.
Yeah.
They're not particularly driving the plot forward or anything. And I just wasn't really sure what to expect. And you know, you kind of get these city boys, you know, they're from Atlanta, like you say, they kind of, you can tell their characters pretty much straight away, can't you? That's what I kind of like, you know, what they're all like. You got Drew on his guitar there, and you've got Lewis, who's the alpha male, kind of like, oh, I've done this before. And actually, Chris, I've got to say, right, and I haven't quite made my mind up on it, but Lewis is this like, I've been here, I've done this, you know, and you know, you don't tame the river, you know, the river tames you, or something like that. And I just got real Jay from the In-Betweeners vibes. It's just like, is he the guy from The Office who's just like, who's been on a couple of expeditions, like, with, you know, led around by other tour guides and stuff, and then he fucking knows everything, and he's like trying to impress his mates? I don't know what it was. It just gave me that feeling, because like when he's trying to negotiate on price, it gave me a feel like, yeah, watch this, mate. I'm going to haggle here, you know, get a better price. And then he goes off and he looks off into the distance, and that almost gave me a Western vibe. You see that in the old black and white Westerns, that kind of, you know, there's a discussion in the background, and then they come with their face right up close to the camera, and they're looking off into the distance. So it just made me think of the old Westerns. But yeah, what do you think about that? Do you think he is this Bear Grylls, you know, hardened wilderness guy, or do you think he's a bit of a Bertie bullshitter?
I think he's I agree with your second point, actually. I think that's very good. I think he's a Bertie bullshitter, but he has had a little bit of experience. It's like he's done a bit of camping with his family or something, and kind of, I can put a tent up, I can make a fire. Yeah, that's it. I'm fucking Bear Grylls. I'm the man, you know, I'm John Rambo. I can do everything. I do think he's not a likable character, Lewis, though, as well. because he's always pushing him in.
Yeah.
He's always like that ego, which what Burt Reynolds leads into in the other movies. He's sort of like, it's his ego, but it's like a funny ego. Whereas in this one, I think this is the start of him evolving into what he became towards the end of the 70s. Like, you know, he had that whole run for 5 or 6 years where he was the biggest paid actor and everything. And this is him being him. This is obviously part of who he is in real life, or he was in real life, like that whole thing. But yeah, I do agree. I think Lewis is not really a likable character. And I was getting more and more upset as the movie got on. I'm thinking, I don't like this. Fucking Bert's going to end up getting fucking pegged off here. He's going to get fucking killed or something. Because he's, you know, usually the ones who are the dickheads are the ones who seal their own fate, don't they? You know, like through the movie, you sort of think, well, they're definitely getting killed. You know, like all that. Someone who's prodding an animal that's caged up or something. Or like, you know, in Jurassic Park in the winding thing, you're thinking, you're definitely getting eaten by somebody at some point. So as it went on, I was like, oh no, Bert's going to take one for the team here. But he did. Another joke there, Dave, but he didn't. But
you literally throwing these out. You literally talked about. I thought he was going to get pegged off. I was like,
yeah,
okay,
no, I'm not.
I'm going to pull him there. I'm going to pull him up on that one in a minute. Oh no, he's going to take one for the team. No. Guess again.
No, but they just turn the phrases that I'm just throwing in there. I'm not even that clever to do that, Dave. But yeah, I do think he pins it all together by being a dick, and he gets him into a lot of these situations. And I think that's where Jon Voight's character, Lewis, that's where that comes from, doesn't it? He's done he's done this sort of thing himself, but he doesn't have to be over the top. He doesn't have to pull, you know, all the bow and arrow out and all that. So yeah, so it's quite interesting, the dynamic of the groups. And then you're sort of thinking, why are all these people fucking friends? You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of resentment between them.
It does strike you as just people who maybe they've kind of grown up, you know, they're friends at school or something, and then they go off, and because they all seem to have different jobs, don't they? So it's not as if because the other thing is, you know, it could be like almost a team building thing from The Office, but yeah, they are a bit of an oddball group, and I think the dynamic is interesting, isn't it? Because it almost turns from, you know, Burt, he is Lewis, he is the central character in the group, he is the alpha male, but then it does change. So, you know, Ed has to step up. You know, he doesn't want to, he doesn't need to be the alpha male, but when it comes to it, then he does have to really kind of step up. And Chris, I think there are so many great things that are not the most famous thing about this movie. I think the way it's shot is fantastic. There's some kind of shots which are kind of, you know, almost through the trees and stuff, and the way it's following the characters, it's almost as if someone else is watching them, and it's almost like, you know, there's this, even if it's not people, there's something else bigger than them. You know, sometimes the way it's shot, they're quite far away, so the characters are quite small and vulnerable on the screen. And I think the sound design as well, some of the stuff that they do with that is really, really clever. But, you know, I mean, this is an incredibly small story, isn't it? It's quite a simple story. But if you think about some of the shots are fantastic. But Christ alive, you know, it was ambitious to shoot this all on location. And Chris, I don't think health and safety standards were quite what they are today in 1972, because so many of the stunts, you're like, no, that's definitely them. And that looks fucking dangerous. And I know Burt was, you know, a stuntman, but, you know, even with that, I think probably the reason they started off with stuntmen in the first place is, well, if someone gets injured, you know, one of the main actors gets injured, that's it. You're fucked then. You got all these people waiting to, you know, all these crew and everything, and you know, you got your main actor in hospital or whatever. Whereas a stuntman, you can kind of, you know, ship them off to hospital and wheel the next one in. So, yeah, what do you think of that? Some of the stunts in this?
I think, yeah, and you're right, running off to hospital. Well, they were all injured, weren't they? Like you say, Burt Reynolds, you do his coccyx, you know, Jon Voight. That fucking, we were talking about this before we started, that fucking climbing scene. And
Oh,
I
it
know
gave me
it's
anxiety. I
fucking
hate it.
hell. And then the only time Jon Voight actually used a stunt double apparently was the rapid scene where there was one bit that he was like, "No, I'm not doing that. No, that's a stretch
Right.
too far." But yeah, I think it's brilliant for the simple reason that, like when you watch, I mean, all right, I'm gonna say this one, the old classic fucking reference for the VHS, but when the Alexander brothers' dad is fucking jumping round, a
Yeah.
65-year-old retired fucking ex-CIA agent, he's bouncing around his house like he's a fucking gazelle. He actually reminds me of Beast out of X-Men, that guy who's supposed to be the dad. You know, the way he like leaps and everything? It's fucking ridiculous. You know what I mean? Isn't it? It's fucking nonsense. You know, Kelsey Grammer or the other lad, Nicholas Holt, who plays him in
Yeah.
the newer one. And it's that. But with this, I just think it's brilliant. The way, like, the water, I know they had things in, like, they had, like, mesh nets, they had things, but there was still jeopardy. The fact that Burt Reynolds fucked his back up, which was the start, and he did another stunt in another movie, as I said before, and then he ended up on a painkiller dependency addiction for years. It was years that until... For a long time, he was taking these painkillers. So when he did Hooper and he's doing all them things at the start, the medication, that wasn't far from the truth. So I think to get the shot, they'll go through anything. And I just think when you're watching it, you really are feeling that they're going through it because it's actually them. You know, all right, it's a film, they're shooting it, they're doing different things, but they've still had to say to him, we're going to do this. And they've probably done a lot of it in one shot because the actors are probably going, fuck that, I'm not doing that again. So they've got to go with it. So I think it's quite groundbreaking as a movie just for that, irrespective of everything else, the pop culture reference of the Squeal Like a Pig. There's loads of things in this movie that for such a small, tight cast, they were expected to do so much. It's really, really well put together.
Yeah, and it'll never be done again.
No.
I mean, if you think about it now, like, there's no way they get your main actors doing such dangerous shit. I mean, the canoe stuff was bad enough, but like, say that scaling that fucking cliff, basically, I was like, fucking hell, I hate heights at the best of times, but I was like, no, that is him. There's no way you can fake that. It's him, and that looks dangerous. And I'm looking for like little safety harnesses or something, and if they had them, they were really, really, really well hidden. So, yeah, I was just so impressed by that. It's completely unexpected. But, I mean, what I kind of like as well is, obviously, they've done a bit of the canoeing in the first day and that, and then they've slept out underneath the stars. And, what I like is it feels real. You've got these kind of mates or, associates at least, and then they've had a bit of a shit night. Like Bobby's like, fucking, I'm eaten alive by these like midges and stuff. And, everyone's a bit grumpy. And so, they kind of go off, and I'm sure Lewis says something like, don't go off too far on up ahead. And, they should have heeded his advice a little bit better with that. But it just felt like this real great camping trip right up until they meet the mountain men.
Yeah, well, they obviously get separated. And what I will say though, Dave, that scene, like, obviously it's fucking awful. And when that guy he's very subtle. When that guy just started like stroking his face, didn't he? And just touching him, and I'm thinking, oh no. Oh no, this is the scene. This is the fucking scene. It's happening. Oh no. But it's sort of like a bit of a fucking Carry On movie, the way he's chasing after him, because all of a sudden Bobby is exhausted, like he's been on a fucking marathon, or he's been like scaling the fucking cliff sides like Ed has. And I don't know, Dave, I don't know what it is, but he like lets him catch up to. I know the guy's got a shotgun and all that, but it just, I don't know. At the time, I can imagine it was really impactful, and it's still an awful scene. But there's a few bits where he's catching it, and he's like, "Fucking, oh, come here, matron." And was like, carry on, fucking, like some comedy thing. I don't know. It just didn't. It didn't have the impact initially. However, when it does come to that bit with this squeal thing, that's fucking awful. Great acting by the one who's actually doing the actor, because it's fucking horrible, and he just looks like grimy and grubby, doesn't he? That whole
Yeah.
mountain men thing, and the other guy's got no teeth. It's obviously something that they're used to doing, and yeah, for me, it's the scream from Ned Beatty, that like like that, and it's like fucking hell, you know what I mean? Like it's not. I think it's a brilliant scene, but there's a couple of little bits felt like we had it on double speed at one point when they were doing this sort of like chasing scene. But yeah, the only thing I'd say, Dave, after it, that we got the whole Burt Reynolds thing with the bow and arrow, which is thinking, I don't want to dismiss it, is it's sort of dismissed as if it's nothing, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's a 70s thing. But anyway, I've talked a lot there. What did you think of that whole scene and everything?
I didn't get the Carry On vibes. Now, apparently in the book, you have to think Bobby has probably been bullied a lot as a kid, right? So this is early 70s. He's a bit of a bigger chap, isn't he? And so he'd been growing up in the 50s, and he'd have been bullied quite a lot for his weight and stuff. And I think he just goes into this sort of fight or flight mode. Or no, not fight or flight, but he like freezes. Like as soon as he starts to like stroke his face and stuff. And this is where I'm like, oh fucking hell, Ned Beatty, you're some fucking actor, actually. I've dismissed you as Otis for all these years, but you see he kind of freezes. And I had seen somewhere in the book that apparently, he just like he's completely submissive to it. He just basically lets it all happen. Whereas the kind of chasing bit, I mean, they've got a shotgun there, so he's shit scared. But and he's trying to get away, but he's not actually going to try and really run away, or else he'll get shot in the back, kind of thing. That's what I was thinking. So he's putting up a bit of resistance, but not that much. And apparently it was Ned Beatty himself who was saying, I would fight back a bit. I wouldn't just complete. No one would let it happen. But I was thinking when I was watching it, I was thinking, what will be going through your head, Chris, will be, I would be fucking windmilling.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think it's hard not to think that. It's like, if you, I don't care if you got a fucking gun. I am fucking going down swinging for my fucking life. But I think Bobby is just this kid who's been bullied, and he's used to being bullied, and he's used to just kind of. I don't want to finish that sentence. I was going to say like fucking rolling over or something. Nothing's going to sound good, but no, I thought it was fucking incredibly disturbing, but incredibly well done as well. Like I said about the way it's shot, and again, this is why I'm thinking about Pulp Fiction. He's definitely homaging this, because you're just seeing Ed, aren't you? You're not seeing, when it gets down to it, much of what's happening, but you're hearing the sound, the like grunts and stuff. You're seeing Ed's reaction to it, and he's not blinking or anything. He's just strapped to the tree, frozen, like horrified by this thing that's happening. Fucking hell, it was as brilliant as it was disturbing for me.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree, and I do think as well that when you get so I'm a bit dismissive, I suppose, as you're saying it, actually, the way you phrase it's very good, Dave, because I think afterwards, I'm saying they're being dismissive, but I also don't understand Ed's fucking point of view. Like, oh my God, we've just committed a crime type thing. No, he's just raped your mate. We are killing that fucker and cutting, burying that fucker, in the ground.
I think it was Drew, wasn't it? It was
Drew. Sorry,
Ronny
Drew.
Cox,
Sorry, Ronny Cox. It wasn't Ed.
Yeah.
It was Ronny Cox. Sorry. And he goes all like, "Oh my God, we need to tell somebody." Well, we can tell somebody, but this guy's just done this. He deserves everything he's just got him. And so that's a very interesting dynamic for the film. The way it was set up in the book, or the directors. It's a really, really good thing, because most of these sort of films, they just go, "Fuck that, See you later. Marcellus Wallace, I'm sorry I'm going to reference it again. Same thing, pulls a shotgun out, Zed's basically dead. We know he's dead, and that's the end of it. And us watching it as the audience see that as justice, don't we? We go, fucking right, any sort of attack on anybody.
He blows his cock off, but then he's gonna get some people in and really fucking torture the bastard, isn't he?
Well,
he doesn't kill him.
No, but I mean, we know ultimately he gets killed, and whatever happens to Zed is deserved.
Justified.
Justified. As us, the audience, you side with Marcellus going, well, whatever you do at this point, we're with you. And I think that's what's interesting in this. It's like, oh, what are we going to do? And fucking Lewis, Burt Reynolds, he's just like, he's gone from this, like, I've done a bit of camping and a bit of, pulling two twigs together. He's now like, fuck that, pulls the fucking arrow out, everything, and they bury this fucking guy. And that's a harrowing scene, though, when they're digging up with the hands and everything, Dave. A fucking very, very good scene when they bury him and everything, isn't it? When they're all together and they're just fucking like squirreling away like you would see a dog when they're burying a hole, aren't they? They're just fucking going for it. And yeah, I think at this point in the movie, I was unsure about everything. However, I'm all in afterwards because I think the acting afterwards, with the effect it has on every single person in the group, even if they're not directly involved. Obviously, Paul Bobby's the one who is involved, but he seems to grow stronger and sort of stands taller than a lot of them in the group, I find, as the movie goes on. It's really interesting the way the dynamic, because Lewis almost shrinks at this point, doesn't he? I know he's still leading it and being a bit of a dick in that, but he isn't sort of front and center as he's been up to this point. You're sort of thinking it's a Burt Reynolds action movie at some point, the way this is going. He's going to save the day, but it doesn't go like that, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, do you ever have those dreams where like something will happen and you end up on the wrong side of the law or something like that, and then you're like, you just end up in this situation and it there's no way out of it, and it just gets worse and worse, and then you wake up and you're like, oh, thank fuck for that.
Yeah,
I do just have a normal life. I'm not on the run or anything. And again, I agree, the digging, that frantic kind of, shit, let's bury him kind of thing. But even the back and forth, I think it would be realistic that you would have, someone like a Drew there just saying, he's lived his life, on the right side of the law, and it's like the law protects us, someone with that view. And then you've got Lewis, who I still think is Jay from The In-Betweeners, saying, no, this is exactly how it's going to go, because, this guy's going to have loads of mates on the jury. We're fucked. There is no actual law that's going to protect us here. This is how it's going to go. And I think, he does have a decent point there. Bobby is obviously not going to vote for, he doesn't want the shame of it. He doesn't want anyone to know. And Ed seems, again, he's not quite stepped up as the leader, so he ends up going along with kind of Lewis. I thought that interaction was really interesting. And like I say, it's like it's just this fucking terrible situation. And you're thinking, ask that question of yourself. You're thinking to yourself, like, fucking hell, what would I do? In that same situation, what would you do? What is the right thing to do in that situation?
I don't know, because I mean, I think the premise of just going down this sort of river and everything because it's going to be damned it's a very interesting plot device anyway, isn't it? It's like, let's just prove this to ourselves. But I don't know what you would do. I mean, because you think with the four characters, I thought maybe Lewis was going to take, he was going to be, I nearly said it again, Burt was going to be one who gets killed sort of thing. But with the Drew situation, I wasn't really expecting that. I thought that Drew might have rose to the top with Ed, and then maybe the other two might have ended up getting it. But ultimately, Drew's the one who he basically gets killed, doesn't he? The whole canoe scene and the way they fall on that is brilliant. I think, like, talk about horror movies, that gives you that edgy, you see clammy hands, doesn't it? They're going down there. There's always been that shot of Burt Reynolds where he's with his like sort of buoyancy thingy on, his life jacket. And you've seen that I've seen it loads of times because that was used on like the front covers. It was used on a lot of the promo stuff I've seen years later. But it's not just about Lewis; it's about all of them and their journey. And ultimately, Drew's the one who meets his maker, doesn't he? But yeah, I don't know. In the respect of everything that happens in such a short space of time, like these guys' lives are fucked. PTSD isn't even in it, is it?
Oh,
They're absolutely fucking,
yeah.
absolutely gone. But again, Bobby should be the one who maybe, but you think, well, maybe Bobby should, be the one who gets killed off. It sometimes happens in movies, but unfortunately, he's already had like his terrible experience in the movie. He's gone through it with them two guys, and then it's like Drew dies. But I do think as well, like Ronny Cox is so good when he's dead and they're holding him. And it's like, he must have been, they were all cold, but he must have been fucking freezing because he's not moving, he's not expressing himself. I bet he was freezing in that fucking water. They wouldn't have shot that in one go. I bet he was blue by the end of it.
He actually dislocated his shoulder for that scene. That's not like some prosthetic or something. That's his actual fucking shoulder dislocated. Which I'm like, fucking hell, that is a guy who's, really pushing his craft kind of thing, going the extra mile, because like you say, so you've got your dislocated shoulder. It's not like that's going to tickle in there in the freezing cold. But before we come back to, let me just jump back a bit. So the other guy, so there's the guy who gets killed with the arrow, fucking deserved it, got everything he needed. I kind of wanted Bobby to have a little bit of a fucking, like really, kill him off or something like that. But I guess that wouldn't be consistent with Bobby's character. But that is kind of what I wanted. But the other guy, the guy with no teeth, right? So, but he was Burt Reynolds' mate. His nickname was Cowboy, and he'd met him through, I think they were playing this Western theme park or something like that, and he got his teeth knocked out from that, but he couldn't read. But Burt sort of brought him in and was like, it's an expectation that actors can read, and apparently he fluffed his lines a bit, but the director was like, "Yep, you're in." It's just perfect for the role. And surely, Chris, he's got one of the most iconic lines as well, hasn't he? Because obviously, the guy who gets killed first had his way with Bobby, and then they kind of come over to Ed, and then he's going like, "He got a real purty mouth, ain't he?"
Oh, no.
And you're like, oh, fucking hell. But honestly, how many times have you heard that over the years? And I didn't really realise it was from this scene.
It's fucking awful. It's awful, isn't it? And it is one of the moments where you're like, oh no, what's going to happen? Because they've already sliced down his chest, haven't they, with the knife dead slowly, and you're thinking, had they just picked on Bobby? Because you were saying like it's a very good callback about like potential bullying. He's quite a weak-minded. They sort of see it as, but then with Ed, it changes completely. You're like, what the fuck is going on here? This is taking a real. But yeah, I think like them scenes as and if you do define it as a horror movie, which I think it is really, it's very, very well put together. The camera work, the way it's shot, these little bits of music, but the acting's bang on. I think like everyone in the film, even like the mountain men and everything, they're just the acting's so good. They're horrible, and you just want these guys to survive. And you sort of like all the way through it, you're like, well, why fucking are you doing it? Why, like we watch the soaps, right? Well, Sam watches the soaps, and I usually sort of look with one eye while I'm on YouTube or if I'm gaming or whatever. It's but you watch them, and there was someone the other day where one of the in Emmerdale, the fucking girl, she's hiding the fact that she's on the pill or something because her boyfriend's abusive and all this stuff, and he wants to, and she's like, yeah, we'll have a baby. So she puts them in the kitchen drawer behind some fucking Asda bags or something. And it's like, well, that's
like a rock solid plan to me.
Yeah, that's obviously going to come back to fucking... No, don't put it with your vitamin C tablets or anything, or hide it somewhere, under a floorboard or something. No, put it in the kitchen drawer behind a load of fucking bags, and then he'll see how many you've taken every day. There's not that... it's stupid things with this. there isn't a lot of things that are laid up before. You know, like the plot device stuff. Like usually you'll go, oh, we're going to come back to that later. You know, when we've talked about it with different, especially the martial arts stuff, where you're like, oh yeah, that guy who's running, I don't know, running a fucking coffee shop, but in the back of the wall there, he's there with his Navy SEAL secret commando medal, where he's with the president, when he saved the president.
Like
You know,
Chekhov's gun sort of
yeah,
thing.
you know, like Last Boy Scout, which is, I fucking love that movie. But Joe Hollenbeck, you know, he was one of the security guys for the senator, wasn't he, and all that. He was a top fucking, you know, armed combat fucking gun specialist, and it's like, so you sort of know that that's going to come and help him at some point in the movie, because he isn't just a cop, because obviously most films, cops are fucking absolute pussies who can't shoot anywhere anyway. But with this, I felt that I didn't really know where the movie was going, which is a good thing, because I've not read up on the plot. There was no little things there, you know, like Burt Reynolds, he turns up in a fucking Trans Am and goes, you know, he used to be a race driver. And the next minute they're driving through the fucking, the forest or something, being chased by the hillbillies, and he's pulling off fucking stunts and doing wheelies. And there's none of that. There's none of that, is there? It's like, it's every scene has a meaning, but you don't really know where the movie's going as it's going. And I did not know how this was going to end, which I found really, really fascinating for such an old movie.
No, I didn't know either. And so I took us back a little bit there, but when they're kind of going back down the river, I mean, that's where it feels like, oh shit, this is getting actually really dangerous for the actors. I think there's lots of stuff in here that is quite ambiguous about what's actually happened. And Drew, I was trying to think, is this the way it's shot, or you know, in you know, it's not quite telling the story that the movie's hoping that we'll see, but he just seems to like go over the side. Like, you don't hear a shot or anything. He just literally seems to go into the water. And then, you know, Bobby's saying, oh, Lewis, sorry, is the first one, saying he's been shot. And I was thinking, has he been shot? It wasn't clear to me. Well, what did you reckon to that? Do you reckon he was shot or not?
No, I didn't think he was shot. It's the first time I've even thought that. So you've said it. I just thought he fell over the side, and the current just took him, and it was just too much for him. He was too tired from everything that's gone on. I didn't think he'd been shot. No.
See, because that's what they were saying. That was the whole debate, and you know, that's they thought the toothless guy, Cowboy, was sort of chasing them, you know, and trying to pick them off. You know, this guy, because they don't know what happened, did he? You know, he buggered off. They buried the other guy, but I wasn't sure if, like, did he fall, or he seemed to deliberately go in. So I wasn't sure. Well, as Lewis, you know, he's been through this traumatic event. He's been outvoted. You know, his mates are all covering up this murder, but he thinks they should have just gone to the cops. They've gone through this trauma. You know, first trauma is that bit. You know, the killing of this guy, and you know, having this debate and whatever. Then they've had to dig a grave with their hands. You know, and all the while he's feeling like he knows this is all wrong, and you know, their lives are never going to be the same again. So I wasn't sure, like, did he just literally think, my life's over, fuck this, I'm just going in, I'm going to end it now.
You know what? That's interesting. That I didn't even think of that. I didn't think of that.
And I don't know. That's the thing. It's not like you know, other things like if you watch Airplane, which takes the piss out of like 70s and earlier movies and stuff, where they have the inner monologue. You know, in a shitter movie, you have the inner monologue, don't you, or something. You know, Lewis is thinking to himself, "I just can't go on," and then goes in. You know, but I think it is intentionally ambiguous. You know, did he fall in? Did he just have enough? I don't think he got shot, but even that, you can't rule it out fully.
No, that's mad. That I didn't. You know, you've done me there, Dave. For once, I'm actually fucking. I don't know what to say, because I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that at all. But I have, as you've been saying it, I've gone on a bit of a rabbit hole, Dave, as well. That's blown my mind. I'm going to have a read of that online. But you know, the rapist guy, Bill McKinney, that's his real
Yeah, yeah.
name. Well, Dave, we've covered him in films before.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes, because he's a cop in First Blood. So he's one of the cops in First Blood. He's one of the bikers in Every Which Way But Loose. He's one of the dickhead ones who Philo Beddoe levers. You know when he's in the diner and there's the two of them, the one who's like got the vest on. He's the one who acts dead stupid when he does the gulp and they go outside and you just hear a load of punches as like you know, Orville's there eating the pie with Sandra Locke. But he's also, Dave, this is a hold up. And he goes, what? This is a hold up. We're actually robbing your train. He's the train driving Back to the Future 3 when they fucking pull the train. God. So I've just got that. I didn't even know. So he's been in that. This is his fourth movie we've done with him in. So I didn't even see that in the research. It's just as you were talking then. Fucking unbelievable. Amazing. He's doing all sorts of films, loads of TV stuff. He's done loads of movies with Clint Eastwood as well. So fucking brilliant. So what fucking really interesting. Movies. Yeah, so we've done 4 there. Back to the Future is probably the one you're most recognisable in. Yeah. But so anyway, sorry, I know I've completely gone off there.
That's all right. But I mean, this for me is where the film takes another bit of a turn, isn't it? Because Lewis has been the alpha male in the group, but ultimately he gets his leg broken. And it's kind of a grim effect, isn't it? I mean, it's proper compound fracture. You got his bone and kind of muscle and everything, the fat sort of sticking out of his. I'm not sure if it's a wetsuit or whatever, but yeah, it looks grim, doesn't it? But that's pretty much him out the game then, and that's when Ed. We haven't really had that much of an indicator that Ed's going to be the new leader of the group, but that is when he starts to grow and it becomes more about Ed and he becomes the central character.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. It's interesting that switch, doesn't it? Because you sort of always feel, even though we've concentrated on Ed and Bobby and all that sort of stuff, Lewis has always been in the background sort of saving the day, and then it's like, no, we're fucked, basically. He's in the boat, he's in the canoe, and he's trying to direct them, but Ed and Bobby, they take over then, don't they? You know, like, especially Ed. Yeah. Jon Voight's really good in this as well. Like you say, I think all 4 of the actors are brilliant. Yeah. But I do think I like the way that it isn't just the hero's journey and that Lewis ends up doing a fucking Tarzan or an Indiana Jones and pulls a whip out or, you know, something stupid to save the day. Because he doesn't ultimately. He's out of the game in this movie and it's all about Ed, really, at this point. He's sort of Ed and then Bobby and the way they talk. And I think what's really interesting, Dave, that scene at the end where they've sort of been rescued, they've got to cover up Drew's death, haven't they? But the sheriff's like, you know, he can't do anything about it because there's no evidence. And it's sort of like, I love the fact that the sheriff just goes, just don't come here again. We won't talk. But then I like Bobby when he goes to Ed's car and he goes to the window and he says, hi, Bobby. Yeah. He goes, I won't be seeing you for a while. You know, as if to say, I need to unpack. In films now, there'd be a full thing about, you know, talking about counselling. It was nothing like that, you know, PTSD, whatever. There would be scenes about how it's affected. Now, we don't get it from Bobby's perspective. There is a bit with Ed at the end, but I do like that scene. It's just sort of like, we're never talking about this ever again, are we? Because he's embarrassed. He's upset. He's been bloody raped. He's like, what, you know, he's completely been broke down as a person. Like, I know it sounds silly, but that little bit of dialogue really stuck with me after I watched it.
Well, there was lots going on there, wasn't there? Because, like, so Ed had killed that guy. So he'd done that fucking horrendously dangerous scaling of the side of the cliff there. And then again, I think it's brilliant the way it's shot because you've kind of got him rested up against a rock, and then you can see this guy with the gun looking over. And then we'd seen Ed earlier, you know, he's not very good with the old bow and arrow. You know, he was trying to kill a deer, wasn't he? So we'd seen this, and he has a similar kind of shaking episode, and you're like, oh, fucking hell, he's missed him. So like, he fires his arrow at the same time as this guy shoots, and then he falls onto his own arrow, and you're like, oh, fucking hell, Ed. You know? Yeah. But then you see he's got him straight through the throat. And then this guy's got no front teeth as well, but he's got like false teeth in there. And I was trying to think, was this the guy? Was this the same guy, or is this just an innocent guy out shooting?
Yeah, I thought the same. I honestly thought the same. I thought that's what the whole teeth thing was, because when that guy was there, he didn't have dentures in at all. So I was with you
No.
on that. I'm glad you picked up on that. I was like, what's going on here? He's just fucking killed him.
Yeah.
The guy's obviously going to pop his gun at him because someone's got a fucking bow and arrow at him. And yeah, that's so well put together. And then obviously Ed pulls it out of his side, doesn't he? As well. We're really talking well of this movie because I just think there's so many good fucking high spots in it and real tension, which I don't think in some respects, even years late, you don't get that in a lot of movies, Dave. Not where you sort of, you're all in on it. And I just went with it. Like say after the sort of the rape scene, I think like the way it breaks everybody down and the after effects that whole thing has on the group, even if you weren't, if you're not Bobby and everyone else, I think it's really clever because it shows their mental capacity to cope with like this real life and death situation.
Well, yeah, and then when they hit civilization again, you're sort of thinking, oh, thank fuck for that. That's kind of where Bobby's head's at. And then Ed's like, no, we got to get our story straight, right? All this happened right here. And like I say, I'm ready to take a breath then, because your anxiety levels are through the roof, aren't they? Through a lot of this movie, and then you're like, oh, thank God for that. That's over now. And Ed's the one who's kind of like, no, we've got to get our stories straight. We don't want them looking upriver because that's where the bodies are and stuff. You got 3 fucking bodies, haven't you? You got the mountain men and you got Drew as well. So. Yeah, and they kind of go with the story, and then they're all having dinner and stuff, and you got this uncomfortable tension. And then, Bobby's kind of saying, oh, I stuck to the story, but I don't think they believed me. And you're like, oh, fucking hell. And so the way that all plays out, and obviously they're trying to drain the river, aren't they? They're trying to find a body, but they can't find anything. They're looking in the wrong bit. Like you say, you have the dialogue with the sheriff, and it's like everyone kind of knows that they have done something, and the sheriff says something like, "What was it now? I want this town to die peaceful," or something like that.
Yeah,
and you're like, "Oh yeah, he knows. Like they have done something, but he's kind of like he just wants a quiet life almost." And then what do you think about the end scene as well? Because you talk about PTSD, like you say, and you've got Ed, you have this hand, don't you, reaching out of the lake. And
horror movie, John.
Horror movie, yeah. I mean, you obviously had like Friday the 13th and stuff like that. It must have taken inspiration from this, but, it turns out it was a dream. But then as the credits roll, you've just got Ed, and he's not fucking going to sleep. This is not a happy ending to a happy film, is it?
No, and almost the hand thing, you're almost sort of thinking, were they setting up a sequel? What the fuck's going on here? But yeah, that way the credits roll and you've got Ed lay there with his missus like lay on his chest and he's just gone, Annie, completely. That's a really, really interesting thing to do, because usually you just get like the end or the credits roll, the end, but they carry on with that the way they do. I think that's very, very, very well, because it gives you a lot of time to think as well, because you think, well, the story's over, but is it over? So, like what happens next? They sort of wanting to understand what happens to the characters afterwards.
Well, I don't think counselling was that big in the 70s.
No,
so I imagine he's in for a fucking rough few years, all of them.
No, it was good. Very, very good movie, Dave. So anything else?
No, should we get into our final review?
Let's go. So brilliantly picked by Ken, and loads of different discussions today, Dave. I know, like, we haven't really done our usual piss-taking thing, but where we're running through, there's a few things there. But as a movie, yeah, this has really surprised me. I was sort of not looking forward to it just because it's not one of the Burt Reynolds movies. I thought, yeah, I need to watch that. I think the Squeal Like a Pig scene had sort of put me off for 45, probably 30 odd years from me watching it, even though it's almost like a pop culture moment in movies, which it is, and it's used afterwards. We've referenced Pulp Fiction and everything. I think you're right there, Dave, with that scene. But no, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a great movie, and I think the acting's fantastic. I don't think it's a Cloud City, though. I think I probably won't watch it again. However, now that I've watched it, I'm glad that I've taken it off my list as one of them movies. Like, why have you never seen it, Chris? So I'm going to send it to Pleasantville, Dave. Great movie, great pick, Kent. But yeah, so many things that afterwards you're like, holy shit, like what an impact it had watching it. So yeah, brilliant. How about yourself, Dave?
Oh, brilliant, Chris. I mean, gotta say, I was massively surprised by this. I kind of felt like it was just a bit of it was going to be an exploitation type movie. It was all going to be about that scene, and everything else was going to be boring. But this movie is fucking brilliant, and so I bought this one. I was just like, right, fuck this. I'm definitely going to be watching this one again. And I think that it's the interaction. It's such a small cast, and almost like a small story, but done brilliantly. It's no surprise that you've got these pretty much unknowns going on to do much, much bigger and better things. Or not even better, but, becoming stars out of this. I thought it was fantastic. And like I say, the ambiguity in certain things as well. I think the camera shots are absolutely fantastic. The sound design, I think it was really, really well done. Not one that I try and introduce the kids to, classic movies. Probably won't be doing this one, but definitely a really, really great movie. So I don't quite know what is stopping me from putting it in Cloud City. I feel like, when I watch a movie, I kind of want to be entertained. I don't want to be left with a kind of brainworm for the next week or so, which I have been with this. I've kind of genuinely been thinking back about this particular scene and what's the character actually thinking. And I think that's brilliant. But I'm going to go Pleasantville as well. I think this is a really great movie. I think the fact that it's known for that one scene almost discredits, it's almost a shame because it's not given the credit that it deserves. Now, from probably cinephiles and stuff, like film students, maybe it is held up in high esteem, but for just generally, the whole population, I think it's known for that, isn't it? So, yeah, Pleasantville, but a really strong Pleasantville for me, and great pick, Kent.
Good stuff, good stuff. Now, Dave, I know it's a Patreon pick next week, and I know it's the amazing Mr. John Hammond, but I don't know what the movie is, Dave. So
you
what?
Don't?
I don't, Dave. And there's a reason you've not told me what the movie is. So can you tell me and everyone else what we're doing next week, please?
Well, Chris, we are going. I think John was, umming and ahhing. Should I go for a great classic? And we know Jon watches. He's got a fairly eclectic film viewing taste, hasn't he? And I think he's gone down the Spider-Dam route with this one. So he's tried to go for something, that we probably haven't watched before. Probably very few people have watched before. And it is the 1983 Hong Kong movie, Chris, called Devil Fetus. Now let's get into the trailer.
Oh, I love the music.
Now I've got to say, Chris, not the best trailer in the world. There is no trailer guy or anything. So for a podcast, we're going to have to lay around, I guess. In a world. No. I probably didn't mention this is a horror movie if you didn't get that from the name.
What the fuck is this? Are you sure it's a horror movie?
A few little saucy bits, but probably none that you'd throw your shoulder out to.
No. Oh no, Dave. Flying cat. Means business. Hang on, that's pushing us into free, that whole stairs. Mentioned it before. Whole station now on How has John even watched these sort of movies? Oh no!
I think he's had
I
this
hate
on his list for a little bit.
This is definitely a horror movie.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Oh no! Oh, what is this? Fuck a doodle doo. We've got martial arts, though.
It gets a little Ninja 3 the Domination there.
Oh my god. Fucking hell. I fucking hate this. Is he gonna get the famous line though, Dave? The trailer's saying he's going for the title, isn't he?
I think he might be going for the title.
Oh my god. Nice last me save it though, Dave.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Mr. Fantastic in the ground there.
God. I am fucking dreading watching this already. John's done his job. Thanks, John. Thought you liked us. That is fucking horrendous. And that's just off the trailer. Oh my god. I don't even know what to say. So, yeah, cheers, John. So, anyway, big thank you to everyone else. Massive, if you want to email us, email us at the VHSstrikesback@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on social media, at VHS. If you do want to support us, please get over to patreon.com/the VHS Strikes Back. And I say it every week, if you have got time, please drop us a review on the podcast. Now, Dave, also, it keeps going. The traction on No Retreat, No Surrender 3, I know we mention it all the time, or probably me more than you, but we're getting comments, we're getting views on that movie, which like you've never seen. So I think last time we did the follow-up, we were on like 47,000 2 weeks ago. Dave, in 2 weeks, we've gone past 50,000 views. We are now at 52,000 views, but people are still not understanding in the comments that it's a watch along of the movie, which we have permission from the film production company. And everyone's like, why are you talking? Why are you ruining this movie? Someone said something like, the American version's better. So I don't know what the difference is between the PAL and the US version. I don't know. So maybe we need to dig that out. But I love the fact we've hit 52,000 views on that video,
It's
Dave.
ridiculous.
It's nonsense.
I have no idea why as well. You've got a few videos up there, a few watch-alongs, but for some reason, when you type No Retreat, No Surrender 3, we appear quite high in the rankings for some reason. So,
It's just it's not like all our other videos have got that many. Hell Comes to Frogtown's got 76 views, not 76,000, not 7,600, no, 76. Then you've got Remo Williams, has got 18,000. That's our second best one. Underseas, they're just one. I mean, No Retreat, No Surrender, the original movie with commentary's only got 808 views. So I cannot work out YouTube. Like I said, I've got my YouTube channel, I've got my vlogs. I pay for this little bit of software to get you in the algorithm, so you use the right tags, you do all this like proper housekeeping stuff, there's about 10 different, and I mean, I've got some good views on the videos, but nothing's fucking even close to fucking 50,000, Dave. So it baffles my head. I never realized Lauren Avedon and Keith Vitale were so popular, Dave. So absolutely brilliant.
But I mean, how is our other one doing? Actually, Chris, I've just found it here. The Losers is on 265,000.
That's gone up. That was on 247 the other week. That's gone up again. What is going on? That is amazing.
I mean, at least, you can sort of see the video for No Retreat, No Surrender 3, but The Losers is just literally our podcast.
Yeah, just us talking. Fucking brilliant. Absolutely love it. Yeah, I love it. I mean, we did have to turn the comments off on that one because we were getting loads of different language there's abuse.
People wanted to watch the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I do that. You put a film in and think, is it on YouTube? And then you get that thing goes, this is not the movie. Please go in the link. And you're like, yeah, okay, mate. So you know it's fucking dodgy. You get that a lot. But no, brilliant stuff, Dave. And I know this is a difficult one, Dave, but what are you going to take us out with today?
Well, Chris, I have been busy again, so putting together a silly little tune sort of related to the movie. So I thought I would play this one for you. Not too dissimilar to Smoke a Race, I have to say.
No? Or Stroke a Race, Dave.
Stroke a Race, you know, I kept calling him Smoke a Race. It's hard not to tap your foot, though.
I am. I'm not actually dancing away here. Proper American-ness.
In the outback of North Georgia, four friends set off with joy. Drew likes to play his guitar and likes to jam with Banjo Boy. The bandit's hair came out of Lego pack. His sideburns extra bushy. Bobby works in sales and's uncomfortable. He should enjoy his untouched tushy. Uncomfortable night underneath the stars. Where's Banjo Boy? We need to crank out some bars. Drew and Lewis hang back while Ed and Bobby are up on ahead. Two guys running moonshine and whiskey, and that's when they said, I bet you can squeal like a pig. We come. You can squeal like a pig. He got a real pretty mouth, ain't he?
Oh my God.
I couldn't help it.
I love the beat.
It's good, isn't it?
It could be in a Burt Reynolds movie, though, Dave. You know, like a proper The Bandit or something, you know, going through Georgia.
Just
and that.
before Ed started praying, Lewis came and shot the mountain man. They chased off Toothless, but they'd never be the same again. They had to decide what they had to do. This guy was surely dead. There's no going back, and Bobby looks on and remembered what he said. I bet you can squeal like a pig.
Oh, me. Sorry, that's a poor choice of words again by me, but yeah. You know. That's harrowing, Dave.
He got a real pretty mouth, ain't he?
The dedication this has took you to get to.
I tell you, hours and hours.
These city boys were in over their head and found themselves in a chase. They lost Drew, they think, with a shot, and he was taken by the river's embrace. Survival is the plan now, and Lewis is out of the game. It's up to Ed, and he needs to step up and be shaken while he takes aim. This ain't noise.
Knowing how this works and messing about myself, the fucking effort this has taken you to put together. Brilliant.
Like you all naked. Ed hit his target and killed some man, but they're in too deep for now. He said, we can't go to jail, so we need to cover up. If you listen, I'll tell you how. They got out of it nearly being the shit. Let's pack up all the gear. We rode our luck. This place does suck. Let's fucking stay at home next year. I bet you can squeal like a pig.
The audience in the background, fucking brilliant. Where are you singing this, Dave? Fucking Albert Hall or something. Mouth organ, excellent. Fucking crowd there.
Yeah.
Like Johnny Cash when he goes to Folsom Prison, that. Fucking brilliant.
I've had so much fun putting these
know
things
you haven't,
together.
so-
Honestly, so years ago, I used to, like, after the band days and stuff, I used to, like, construct songs from, like, samples and stuff. So you drop in your drum beat and stuff. This just takes it to another level. But like you say, there's still quite a bit of working through, like, you've got different sections and how does that sound? Oh, it doesn't sound that good. And, you know, so it's just, yeah, it's a lot of fun. So my aim is to, like, make these kind of a bit catchy, you know, so
Yeah.
this is the nichest of the niche group, obviously, isn't it? The VHS Strikes Back fan group. But, you know, have people, like, humming it to themselves at work.
It's fucking brilliant. No, that's excellent, mate. Excellent. Oh, brilliant.
So, yeah, so thank you very much, sir. Thanks for indulging me a little bit with that. So thanks to all our listeners out there. Thanks to all our supporters. Thanks to Kent, obviously, for picking this one. And we'll speak to you next time.
Bye.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?
We better get back, because it'll be dark soon, and they mostly come at night. Mostly.
I'll be back.
That's not.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
Wax on, wax off. One ring to go. All right. Ding, ding. Bust you up. Go for it.
Well, here we go.
Ain't so bad. Ain't so bad. Ain't so bad. Come on. Come on, ain't so bad. Ain't nothing. Come on. You must be crazy or something. I'm crazy. You just a stupid fool. Yeah, maybe you crazy. I ain't breathing heavy. He's a fool. He's stupid. I'll see you in 6 months.